take out the trapezius muscle. You guys will see just below it. Do you guys see this wing-shaped muscle? Right? Does anybody know which muscle this one is? Oh, it's called the latissimus dorsi, right? Like, have you guys heard of like your traps and lats, kind of? I don't know. So you have traps and then the lats. Like the formal names for those are trapezius and the latissimus dorsi. Right? So we have 1, 2, and then the third muscle of this group can be seen by reflecting off both muscles. And by reflecting off both muscles, can you guys see? Like there's this fan-shaped muscle here. Do you guys see it? It looks like, they look like finger-like projections right here. Can you guys see it? Yeah, so that muscle right here. Does anybody know which muscle this is? Serratus anterior. Very good. It's called the serratus anterior. This serratus anterior muscle, I used to call it the Bruce Lee muscle, because I don't know if anybody watches Bruce Lee or like checks him out because he's cool. You guys sometimes will notice that Bruce Lee has actually very amazing protractor muscles, and he does it so much to the point that you guys actually see like the bloop 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 on the side. It's crazy, but he has cool serratus. Like you can't. It's very rare to catch serratus anterior on people, but you can see it on Bruce Lee. It's awesome. But anyway, that's the third muscle of this group. The innervations for each of them, it's not too bad, except this first one is kind of crazy. The innervation for the trapezius, right? The trapezius muscle, yeah, it's like the hardest one, and it is innervated by something called the cranial nerve number 11. So cranial nerve 11. Right. So I want to write this down for not recording. Cranial nerve number 11, which is also known as the accessory nerve. Right? So if you say either or on the exam, you'll get credit. So you could put just accessory nerve or cranial nerve number 11. Right? So that's this first one. Right? I'm gonna quiz you as we go, so try to commit to memory if you can. So we have cranial nerve number 11, right? Innervating trapezius. The second one, latissimus dorsi, is innervated by something called the thoracodorsal nerve. Thoraco, as in like the thoracic region, which is by the thoracic region. Dorsal, because it's in the back, right? Which is kind of makes sense because it's in the back by the thoracic region. So it's innervated by a nerve called the thoracodorsal nerve. And then this third muscle here, right, the serratus anterior, is innervated by, because all of these muscles are actually inserting onto the individual ribs, right? And ribs, we said, is the thoracic region. The innervation for that region is called the thoracic nerve, but it's called the long thoracic nerve, just because a lot of the nerves come from the back, and to innervate the front, the nerve has to be really long to eventually get to the front. So it's going to be innervated by, again, the long thoracic nerve. Okay, sweet. So that's group 1. Group 2, right, are muscles of the scapula, right? And do you guys remember we had like a in the bone, scapula bone, there was like a spine. Like, do you guys remember the spine? And we had like a fossa above it. Do you guys remember what that fossa was called? Supraspinous fossa. Yeah, it's called the supraspinous fossa. Right, and then below that we had a infraspinous fossa. And then the big fossa on the anterior side was called a what? Subscapular fossa. Very good. So the muscles that are sort of in those beds of those fossa are named after the fossa. So like you guys could check out, you guys see like how this is the scapula here? Right, like right here. And if you could sort of feel the spine. So if you're above the spine, that big chunk of muscle, that's called the supraspinatus muscle. Right, very similar to the fossa name, supraspinatus. So the muscle below it is probably called infraspinatus, right? And then the muscle on the anterior side is called subscapularis. 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 Okay. Both supraspinatus and infraspinatus are innervated by what's called the suprascapular nerve. Right. Both supraspinatus and infraspinatus are innervated by something called the suprascapular nerve. And then the subscapularis is innervated by the subscapular nerve. To be precise, I think it's like the lower subscapular nerve, but those are the innervations for the muscles of the. Right. So real quick, does anybody remember what muscle this one was? This one's latissimus dorsi, innervated by thoracodorsal nerve. How about trapezius innervation? Accessory nerve or cranial nerve number 11. And how about serratus anterior? Long thoracic nerve. How about subscapularis? Subscapular nerve. How about infraspinatus? Suprascapular nerve. Nice, nice, nice. 6 already down. Right. Just a little bit more. All right. So the next group are muscles that share a common innervation. Right. What's called the dorsal scapular nerve, because it's by the back as well as the scapula. So can you guys see how, like, when we lift up like the trapezius, there's like these two muscles here? Can you guys see there's like a, so like just deep to the traps, there are these muscles going, like, inserting onto the scapula, and there's this muscle towards the back also inserting onto the scapula. Right. Does anybody know the muscles just deep to the traps, what they're called? They're rhomboids. Good. You have rhomboids. You have rhomboideus major and minor. Major and minor. Major and minor based on size, not by position. Right. So we have a smaller one on top. Right. So that's probably what? Minor. Minor because it's smaller. They're based on size. And a major, rhomboideus major, is the bigger one on the bottom. Can you guys see that? So this is rhomboideus major because it's big, and then rhomboideus minor because it's small, right, but it happens to be more superior.
Where's the minor?
Minor on top,
Oh, okay.
and then the major on the bottom. And then the third muscle of this group is this guy, which is going to be the difference between your 4.5 and 5, muscle called levator scapulae. Right? Levator scapulae. Levator scapulae. Right. So if you get this muscle, you guys will get a 5 instead of 4.5. Oh, I will let you know that it's actually very, very tricky to actually keep this. Almost everyone just snips it off. But I'll keep my example up in the front so you guys can refer to it. And I'll try to give you small hints, but I can't like give it away to you. But this is the muscle. Again, levator scapulae. Which one's this big one here? Major, and then the small one is rhomboideus minor, all innervated by dorsal scapular nerve, right? Back scapula, right? Dorsal scapular nerve. Sweet.
What muscle is deep to the levator scapulae?
What muscle is deep to the levator scapulae?
Yeah.
Well, it's some of the supraspinatus. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
It goes all the way up to there. And it's on top of it.
Okay.
Good question. All right. All right. So now on to the muscles here, right? The sexy muscles, kind of, maybe. All right. So the main bicep muscle right here. All right. So this is our next group. Our main bicep here is what's called the biceps brachii muscle. Right. That's the big sexy one in the middle. Right. But within that same group, the bicep group, there's a muscle just lateral to it. So there's the big biceps brachii. Do you guys see this muscle right here? I'm pointing to it. Okay. A muscle just lateral to the big sexy muscle. It's called brachialis with an L for lateral. Right. Biceps brachii, brachialis. And there's another muscle within this group that is extending out to the forearm by the radius side. Therefore, this muscle right here is called brachioradialis. Right. So we have brachioradialis, brachialis, and biceps brachii, right? which all share an innervation by what's called the musculocutaneous nerve, right? Musculocutaneous nerve, right? Sweet. So those are the biceps, right? An antagonist to the biceps should be the triceps, right? And the triceps, we have, again, 3 types of triceps. Do you guys see this tricep right here? All right. This tricep is called the triceps long head because it's actually the longest one, right? Triceps long head, right? And then we have another tricep called the triceps lateral head because it's on the lateral side. Do you guys see that? So there's a long head and a lateral head. But if you go in between it, kind of like get through and you open it, right? You'll find what's called the biceps, the triceps medial head, right? Long head, lateral head, and medial head, all innervated by radial nerve. Except for, I think Ken might say, Professor Noriega might say like the long head might also be innervated by something called the axillary nerve. I'll write that little note on the board so just so you guys don't get confused. But right, so it's radial head and then axillary. Right. And the way I used to remember that, like the innervation for biceps and triceps, is really stupid, but I'll share it. Like when you like flex, right? Like using your biceps, you know how you kind of do this, right? And if you do this, can you guys see? I'm trying to make an M. Do you see like there's like a really like makes no sense M? Do you see it? Do you see it? Flexors for musculocutaneous nerve, right? Like a little M. And then if you go, you're extending, right? So you guys see how I could make a little R? Do you see it? The radial for the extensors, except for the long head. Right? Radial, musculocutaneous innervations for the biceps and triceps. All right, just to wrap up. Oh, by the way, I'm not gonna have you guys dissect out the pectorals just because they're too crazy on the cat, and I don't want to deal with that. And all I want you to know about the pectorals is that we have like a superficial one and a deeper one. Pectoralis major for superficial, and then pectoralis minor for deep. I might show you what that looks like on the cadaver, but not on the cat. So don't dissect the pectorals on the cat. So that leaves us with our last group, our very last group, which is the deltoid here, right? Do you guys know like the deltoid, the teardrop shaped muscle in the right here, right? Located in a very similar position, right? That's a deltoid on the cat. Cat actually has 2 deltoids. There's a deltoid here and a deltoid here. So the second deltoid kind of looks like an eye, like an eyeball, like in like the middle of the scapula. But there's a deltoid and a deltoid. There's and then there's this next muscle here, just below it. There's deltoid, and this third muscle called the teres major. And again, teres major you could find just below the infraspinatus and this second deltoid. Right. But the innervations for those guys is the deltoids are innervated by your armpit nerve, and armpit in anatomy is called what? Axillary, right? Your axillary nerves innervates the deltoid, and the teres major, on the other hand, is innervated by the muscle, the innervation for the muscle just anterior to the scapula. Do you guys remember the muscle anterior to the scapula, what that was called? Subscapularis. So the innervation for that was subscapular nerve, and because the teres major is so close to it, is innervated by the same thing. So it's also innervated by the subscapular nerve. Right. The one muscle that I didn't mention